Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats. Our program will begin in 15 minutes. Today's program is open seating, so please take a seat, and we will begin momentarily. Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats. Our program will begin in 10 minutes.
Feel my body turn, come home, even though the world is burning, just come home, I can feel my body turn, you are my love. All night. How can we see the light if we're both blinded? You are my love. There's only love for you. We feel uncertain. Just come home. Run away from all your curses. Come home, even if you feel uncertain. Just come home, run away from all your curses. You are my love. You are my love.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. Our program is about to begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brenton, and I know that this is the first time that many of you have seen each other in person for a very long time. And this last 12, 18 months has been a period of darkness for many of us as individuals, as families, as community members, and as citizens of this city. And so in this moment, as you all dine with friends and colleagues and possibly family, I just invite everyone to take a deep breath. Maybe the deepest breath you've taken in the last several weeks. And to just breathe in the energy of being with human beings again, in person, gathered together in the same place. And as you reflect on that energy, if you wouldn't mind, would a few people just popcorn maybe a word that encapsulates the way you're feeling or something you're experiencing in this moment right now? Joy, energy, pride, hope. I love that. What was that? Peace. Real clothing. That's so underrated. I love that. Yes, yes. So I hope that you take these words, these energies, these reflections, and you hold on to them, whether it's for the rest of this luncheon, the rest of the day, perhaps even the rest of this year. And so we begin. In our world, each life is a thread, the fibers of which are forged by the stories and origins of every indelible individual who makes the human tapestry indivisible, and forged by the campfire flames that have always inspired us to conspire and commiserate. But the seeds of hope don't just live in the pastoral landscapes of the past. Even if we've left the tribe behind, the village lives on to share in the hope of the Promethean flame. Because hope is made here, and it's made now, in places where we count grids and blocks rather than blades of grass. Today, we sow new threads of hope and humanity across city streets. Streets where whispers flitter in our ears, speaking truths that at times the soul is afraid to utter out loud. Because the city is a haven, a respite, a solace from a sometimes solemn world that demonizes differences as disgraceful and says that strength lies in building borders rather than building bridges. But warriors of our municipal village say otherwise. They let colors paint hope in the air of spectral streaks of acceptance. They let kindness line the streets so that every roadway, gateway, and alleyway is a path to friendship. They speak culture into speech and their very life into language so that with every inhale, we're all transformed with a snippet of a new identity. Because that's what it means to be multifaceted. The city has no face. It has a million of them. A city is the epitome of biodiversity. And whether that's in our DNA or in our PSAs, it's that diversity that keeps us alive in a colliding collusion of cultures. Because the day that those threads of humanity cease to multiply, the city dies. And so whether it's in the pristine or in the gritty, when we gather together in humanity, here and beyond, in rooms of hope and joy and love and connection and real clothing, the beauty of our city and our communities lies in our multiplicity. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mike Zollner, Chairman of the Downtown Denver Partnership Management Group Board of Directors.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks very much, Brenton. What a wonderful way to start our time together today. That was inspirational and very timely. I think the dry cleaners may be the happiest folks in town that we're all back together again. Let's start by acknowledging the moment that we're in. and where we've been. What a remarkable journey. Brenton touched on that, but I think sometimes we get so caught up in what's happening on our desk and in our lives, we don't really think about this time that we've gone through. Certainly it's been a great time to get closer to family and to friends and to reevaluate what's really important. 2020 tested our community, but we stood tall together. And downtown Denver's resilience shined everywhere. We have a great program for you today, and as you will hear, we've been busy over the last year, and we have a lot of bold plans for the future. We'll be celebrating some leaders in our community with well-deserved recognition, as well as hearing from today's keynote speaker, Vishaan Chakrabarti. Mr. Chakrabarti is a renowned urbanist and an architect who will share insights on how building strong urban centers will result in a prosperous and a sustainable future, and how our work at the Downtown Denver Partnership will help foster this. Thank you also for Hush Blackwell, our sponsor today. Hush Blackwell is a longtime member, supporter, and platinum corporate sponsor of the partnership. We're grateful for your commitment to the community and to building a prosperous downtown Denver. Please join me in thanking Hush Blackwell. For 66 years, the Downtown Denver Partnership has led the way in building an economically healthy, growing, and vibrant city for the benefit of all, convening partners and civic leaders to drive progress. We're leading a place-based economic development strategy to ensure that all downtown businesses not only survive but thrive. I hope today's program inspires everyone here to think about your impact as a city builder and the significant difference that each one of you can make in our community. In our city, building with vision begins with you, the Downtown Denver Partnership members, stakeholders, and partners. I want to acknowledge the leadership of my fellow board chairs, Sarah Rockwell, Maya Rosenquist, Sandy Robinson. Thank you all for those who have also served on our boards, and I want to also extend a special welcome to our new board members whose terms began on July 1st. If we could, please, could all the board members from Downtown Denver, Inc., the Denver Civic Ventures, and the Business Improvement District boards please stand and be recognized. I feel it's also important to thank and recognize our elected and appointed officials who are joining us today. Bringing together public and private sector partners is critical now more than ever. This collaboration is key to creating a thriving downtown for all of us for many years to come. We value our strong working relationship with these leaders and look forward to continuing to build our city together. Thank you all for your civic leadership. And with that, it's my distinct pleasure to welcome a great leader and friend of the Downtown Denver Partnership, Mayor Hancock. Your leadership throughout the pandemic has positioned us very well for economic recovery to come. And in addition, your support for downtown has really been unwavering. Thanks for all that you do for all of us, and welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. I haven't seen Mike in a tie in years. But let me just say how good it is to be out now and about. Don't you feel good? Feels good? Some of you aren't that very excited about it. I had the opportunity to go to the City Park Jazz Festival this weekend, and I think they estimated there were 10,000 people there. And I got up and I said, I want you to look around. I want you to recognize that not every city is able to do this around the country today. Actually, as I was coming over here today, I was on a large exchange with mayors all over the country, and many of them are preparing once again to issue orders, unfortunately, because of their low vaccination rates. Denver, we were able to come together like this today because we are approaching 75% of the folks in our city and our metro region who will become vaccinated. And so I want to say just two things, and then I'm going to get off the stage. Since March of last year, for maybe the first 4 or 5 months, people would ask, how are you doing? And I would respond with the perfunctory, I'm doing well, how are you? And then sometime around this time last year, pardon my language, I started to say, you know what, no, this shit is hard. This is tough. Every decision, you know that someone is losing their job, their livelihood is at stake. Every decision we make, we know we are pushing the city further behind from the mark where we were. But I want to share with you something that maybe many of you in this room do not know. And that is, very early on during the pandemic, where we were under stay-at-home orders, the team and I decided while we were in the bunker every day, under one objective, and that was to save the city. I asked the team one question: when do we start thinking about post-pandemic? And so we began the process of pulling together a group of business leaders, civic leaders, and government officials under what we called our Economic Recovery and Relief Committee. At one time, 300 people, whether they were sitting at home or isolated in their offices, were on Zoom calls, doing everything they can to imagine Denver post-pandemic. They not only thought about post-pandemic, but what can we do now to save our restaurants and our hotels and other hospitality venues? How do we save downtown? How do we get through these protests and marches? And as a result, their ideas that came about were expanded patios, changing our zoning code, saving restaurants and livelihoods, and amassing some $87 million in saved revenue to our restaurants because of their ideas. Many of them are in this room today, and they spent hours helping us figure it out. And so I want to publicly today, Tammy, to you and to Mike and to Sarah and so many other players of Downtown Denver Partnership, to Lori Davis, who chaired the whole effort, so many people who chaired the subcommittees, publicly stand up and say thank you. Because of you, Denver is roaring out of the pandemic. And so as I leave this podium, I issue the same challenge to you that I issued during the State of City address. This is no time for us to think small or to shriek with smallness, if you will. We must do what we've always done in Denver. That is to lift our heads, to be embarrassed by what we see are the remnants of protest marches and, yes, the pandemic in our downtown. And to simply say, this is not who we are. It's time to get bigger and better, to come back better than the way we left it. It is time, yes, to build that mid-size arena in the city that we've been missing in our marketplace for quite some time. We have the wherewithal to do it. It's time to do it. And it's time to show not only ourselves, but the rest of the world, we're back. And not only are we back, we're going to be better than when we left the first time. And we're going to come back and compete, not only here in the States, but around the world. And so with that charge, I'll stand with Downtown Denver Partnership as we bring back a much better, stronger, resilient Downtown Denver. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Thanks very much, Mayor Hancock. We really appreciate your leadership and listening to downtown stakeholders. We also really appreciate the importance that you place in a healthy and vibrant downtown. Thank you. Next in our program, we're going to be celebrating a few of our members for their hard work and contributions to our city. Each year, the Downtown Denver Partnership recognizes 6 outstanding members who have shown true leadership and dedication to the partnership's mission. To begin today's awards presentation, it's my pleasure to introduce Holly Velasquez Horvath and to present our Downtown Champion Awards. Holly is the Senior Director of State Affairs and Community Relations at Xcel Energy. It's a very long title, but she's a terrific person, I'll tell you that. A longtime member of the partnership, Xcel is a longtime member of the partnership and a consummate example of an organization who invests in and supports the communities that they serve. Holly was recognized in 2020 as a Downtown Champion, and she's continued to demonstrate significant leadership through her work on the Downtown Denver Inc. board, as well as the chair of the Member Experience Council. Please join me in welcoming a great friend to DDP and to me, Holly.
Thanks, Mike. And it is great to see you in person, as well as being able to just physically give all of my friends and all of you a hug and see you in person. It's amazing the type of energy that you get from just being in a room and having all of the conversations that we had missed for so long. It's an honor. It was an honor to be recognized as Downtown Champion last year alongside Raju Patel from Bank of America, Tom Pitstick from Gates Corporation, and David Sternberg from Brookfield Properties. It is my pleasure to be welcoming our new class of city builders and to present this year's Downtown Champions. This award acknowledges individuals whose work has made lasting impacts on the partnership's mission, shaping a vibrant and thriving downtown Denver and future development of our center city and our community as a whole. Let's take a moment to hear about our downtown champions, celebrate them, and thank them for their contributions over this last year.
Successful cities are built on amazing placemaking, and Amy gets it.
It has been really incredible to volunteer here at the partnership, how engaged everybody is, that everybody really, really, really wants to make Denver a better place. It's contagious and it's hard not to stay involved.
I thought urban exploration this year was as good as any year we've ever had, and Amy led an amazing program.
Being involved with UrbanX has been amazing. I think the thing that's really magical about it is we start with the ideas of the 20-year plan, and then we say, what are the things where we can make Denver a better place? How can we improve? Where are the cities that we can go that have something we can learn from? And then really coming up with the ideas on how we're going to explore all of that as a group, and then going and watching the magic happen.
In a year where persistent monitoring of finances and balancing funds was so imperative for all businesses, Ellen rose to the occasion to support the economic vitality of the Downtown Denver Partnership.
We've had a very good year, and it's really due to Tammy and Charlene Laus, our CFO. They were incredible in monitoring expenses and continuing our programs. All I had to do was ask the tough questions, and they always had answers. And you could tell that they had thoroughly thought about things before we even got involved.
She immediately has made an impact in our community. She's so involved and she cares so much, and she gets to know people and make friends so easily.
I love the ability to say, you know, I can change things. I could help be part of the future, and I could give back. And it's so incredibly fun and great to team with people that are in the same category, that we all want to make a difference, and you could do that. And so I love being involved with the Denver community.
Austin is committed to the center city. This is showing up in so many ways, but a most recent example is the renewal of the bid.
The bid just achieved a huge accomplishment, and when things like that happen, when you're able to kind of see the fruits of the labor of so many people come into focus, it really is gratifying and fun to be a small part of.
Austin, through his own energy and leadership, inspires others to get involved and engaged.
I truly look at the 5280 Trail, the Urban Forest Initiative, and the Upper Downtown Plan as these seminal, critical moments that are going to allow us to drive our city forward, and that yet again for the next generation.
I think his viewpoints from a property owner perspective and a business owner's perspective have been invaluable in making good decisions for downtown.
This is such a team effort. The DDP staff, the people that I get to work with on a volunteer basis, that's really where I get a kick out of this whole thing, those relationships. So it's a lot of fun to be recognized, and I'm very grateful for the honor, but this is truly a team effort.
During this year of the pandemic, people were really looking for answers. They were really looking for leadership, and they were really looking for the facts. And Robin and her team were an amazing resource to the partnership.
Well, there are amazing people at Denver Health, and there wasn't a single question I could ask that I couldn't find somebody who had the answer, or if they didn't have the answer, they knew how to get it. And that's really what people wanted more than anything, is they just wanted to know that in their quest to be safe, to keep themselves and their family safe, that they had a team who were working on that. And it really was the leadership, the business leadership, community, government, that banded together to make sure that we supported each other and we tried to include everybody. And that's what Denver is all about anyway, and it made a difference.
Robin is a strong civic leader. She recognized the value of Denver Health as an anchor institution in our community.
You know, Denver Health is really here to serve the community, the people who live, work, and play in Denver. And being part of DDI really gives me an opportunity to have conversations with business leaders, community leaders, organizations, to understand better what we can do to help make Denver a better city. And it's really been an invaluable asset to me to bring back to the organization the message of, here's what Denver's about, here's what they're trying to achieve, how can we support that and advance the work? And it's been phenomenal.
A city builder is someone who cares, who takes their strengths and figures out how they can make the city better.
I think it's just being willing to share your voice, share your time, be willing to listen, and work together with the other members of the community.
Seeing what exists and seeing the possibilities and finding a way to come together to achieve those possibilities.
I think one of the really important things that we do as city builders is to provide an example for what really makes a great city and not just what makes a great bottom line.
They're selfless, they're caring, they're focused, and they get stuff done.
And it's about making sure that it is a city for everybody.
I think that's one of the things that's so cool about Denver is if you want to be involved in city building, all you have to do is raise your hand.
Please join me in celebrating our 2021 Downtown Champions. Amy Cara, for your exemplary work serving as co-chair for UrbanX Denver and chairing our Development Council. Austin Kane, for your leadership in securing the recent bid renewal, huge accomplishment, and your commitment to building the 5280 Trail and forging the Upper Downtown Plan. Alan Valdi, for serving tirelessly on both the Downtown Denver Inc. Board of Directors and Downtown Denver Management Group, as well as helping to monitor the partnership's finances during a particularly difficult time. And Robin Wittenstein, for connecting our members with critical health-related information over the past year. Here accepting on Robin's behalf is Chris Gaw, Chief Operating Officer of Denver Health. Congratulations to you all. Thank you for all you've done and will continue to do for the Center City. We are honored to celebrate you today.
Please welcome to the stage Albus Brooks and Kathy Holmes.
It's been a while. I don't even know if I can speak in public anymore. I'm just joking. We good.
We got it.
So I just want to wish congratulations to all our downtown champions. You are what makes downtown great. My name is Albus Brooks. I'm Vice President of Millender White and a 2020 award winner for the Peter Bowes Award.
And I am Kathy Holmes, and I am President of Holmes Consulting Group. And we are here to honor some very special people in this room today. We're proud to have the presentation for the recipients of Downtown Denver Partnership's highest honors.
I didn't get a chance to thank you and congratulate you on your award because we were virtual last year.
We were virtual last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Back at you, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate
know.
that. So let's start with the Peter Bowes Award winner for 2021. And first, we're going to talk a little bit about who Peter Bowes was. And he was the chairman of the Downtown Denver Partnership and a consummate city builder. Peter Bowes Award is given to someone who truly believes in our city and the work of the Downtown Denver Partnership. Someone who pushes to bring people together and foster collaboration, and who ultimately leads by example by strengthening our community. This person exemplifies a love for downtown and a deep-seated devotion for our center city, much like the award's namesake had. Let's learn a little bit about this awards winner for 2021.
Most people downtown don't even realize how many things Dorita's involved with and what she's contributed over the many, many years she's been downtown.
Dorita's played a critical role in helping to recruit new members, especially during a particularly challenging year. She continues to be a great advocate for the Downtown Denver Partnership on so many fronts.
So, growing up as a native of Denver, I'm a fifth generation Coloradan. And I think what I learned most from my parents and really watching them is that you have to give back to your community. And in order to help make an impact or create change or help a place grow, you have to be involved. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Dorita's actively involved as a leader on the Downtown Denver Inc. Board of Directors and our Management Group Board of Directors, the Urban Exploration Steering Committee, and our Housing Council, just to name a few.
These initiatives really speak to my passion for this city and for the people who live here. It's always been about talking to people about how they could move to our city, how they could help bring more creative thinking to our city, how we can grow our city and make it a really special place to be.
As someone who knew Peter and how he would be constantly recruiting new members to the Downtown Denver Partnership, you certainly deserve this award, because anyone who knows you know that you're always out there advocating for the partnership, supporting the partnership, and recruiting new sponsors and new members. Congratulations, it's very well deserved.
I do want to take a moment just to thank the people who allow me the time to do what I do for the partnership. It's so important and special to both me and to our company, Seamus Makowski. So I do want to thank my father, Evan Makowski, who is the best mentor in the world, Hayden Hirschfeld, my business partner, as well as the rest of our Seamus Makowski team who give me the opportunity to do this. I also want to thank my family, my husband and our 4 kids, who are big supporters of what I do every day, and I know that they will pay it forward.
So I want to congratulate Dorit on this award, and I've been working with her personally, both in the public and private sector. I can tell you, she is so deserving of this award because she not only gets the city, she understands it from a spiritual perspective and understands placemaking and understands that this is her calling. So, without further ado, please bring up Dorit Fisher, this year's awards winner.
Now, it is my pleasure to be able to present to you the 2021 Honorary Partner Award. The Honorary Partner is someone who demonstrates exceptional, long-term commitment to downtown and the partnership. This person is always there, ready to jump in, to commit themselves, and to support working across the organization, both for downtown Denver and for the partnership. They embody the essence of a community and are committed to a healthy and vibrant economic downtown. It is my honor to present this year's Honorary Partner Award winner.
Trini is a highly respected leader across our community. We've been proud to be able to work together with him as he helped to lead the organization and our Center City into the future.
When I look back over the 10 years that I've been involved at the partnership, it's really been countless examples of projects and relationships and efforts and strategies that have resonated with me that I've been able to plug into and have a real imprint on what downtown Denver has become.
Trini has been a champion for all things inclusivity for many, many years at the partnership. It's been his passion.
He brought that value forth to our organization to drive forth a strategy to deliver results around inclusivity.
I think our Center City really just provides an amazing opportunity for so many different types of people that come from all over in different places and diverse races and ethnicities, and bring their aspirations and to downtown. Starting in 2018, we really, I think, captured just a ton of energy around that topic and interest in it among our members, our partner organizations. So I think that any place that really makes that possible and fosters it and expands that is a place I want to be investing in, I want to be contributing to.
Trini is such a sincere and thoughtful and impactful leader, and he's just a leader that we need more people like in our community.
My team and colleagues have just been extremely supportive of everything I've done, giving me the latitude and the partnership, the financial support that I thought was important to invest to make good on some of the projects and initiatives that we at the partnership have really prioritized over the years. I couldn't talk about supporters without acknowledging my family and my wife and my amazing daughter, and I'm incredibly thankful for my very supportive family.
Trini, thank you for all that you have done for the partnership. I've worked with Trini for quite a number of years, and I can say, and I venture to say, that many of us are able and honored to call Trini our friend. Trini, you have shown us what a true leader is. For those of us who have been in the room working with Trini, we know that when he sets out to get something done, we are happy to follow. And for those of you that have not had that opportunity, seek Trini Rodriguez out because he gets things done. We know you, Trini, as a city builder, a past board chair, a champion for inclusivity, an advocate for mobility, urban planning, and absolutely a regular participant in our urban exploration trips. From the moment you joined the partnership, you have been dedicated and you have never faltered. That leadership has meant so much to all of us. I saw Trini's mom in the room tonight or this afternoon, and she will agree that Trini's smile lights up a room. His integrity is unmeasured, and his leadership is beyond bounds. It is my pleasure to thank Trini, the one and only Trini Rodriguez, on the Partner of the Year Award. Join me in welcoming and congratulating the one and only Trinidad Rodriguez.
Please welcome President and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership, Tammy Dorr.
Do I look taller than you remembered? Listen, I'm so excited to see you all. This is a great time for us to celebrate, and the partnership has long said that, you know, we have to celebrate the people in our community and our community at large, so that's what today's about. It's also a great opportunity for us to acknowledge our outgoing board members, including our outgoing board chair. So with that, I want to take a moment to just acknowledge Mike Zollner and his leadership. It's no doubt been a challenging year, but he has helped us think for the future. He's helped us lead with grace and in a spirited way that helped us be innovative and continue to believe in our city and the people in our city. We're so proud to have been able to work with him this year and all that he has taught us and brought us in terms of his leadership. Today we are presenting Mike with a beautiful painting, an iconic view of the DNF Tower, which if you don't know, this is where Mike's office is located, so it's particularly meaningful to him, and I think we're going to show a picture of that on the screen. There it is. It was commissioned just for Mike. There's not enough that we could say or do to acknowledge his support for our team, for the community, our membership, and his overall leadership. On a personal note, I'm very grateful for all that Mike has done, and I'm excited to bring him on stage so you all can hear more from him directly. Please welcome our outgoing board chairman again, Mike Zollner.
Well, thanks very much, Tammy. That's incredible. What a cool gift. Very unexpected, but very much appreciated. Thank you. I have to say that I've always received a lot more in return for my time at the partnership than I've ever contributed. Before I begin, I'd just like to introduce a couple of very special people in my life. Our daughter Kelsey and her husband Trey are with us via Zoom down in Fort Worth, Texas. By the way, welcome to everybody. I should have done that right up front. Welcome to everybody who's with us on Zoom today. And our daughter Sarah, who is with us today. She's expecting any day, our 8th grandchild, and who, by the way, will be a 6th generation Colorado native. Very excited about that. And our son and my business partner, Michael. And last but not least, I want to thank my girlfriend of over 50 years for all of her support and love and being there through all kinds of trials and tribulations. But thank you all for being here. It means a lot. I want to first and foremost thank Tammy and the entire staff at the partnership for an incredible focus and energy during the past year. All of you adopted and pivoted into a brave new virtual world with confidence and enthusiasm. You never lost your long-term focus on our organizational goals and priorities, and you kept major projects moving despite some really difficult circumstances.
I'd also like to especially thank Tammy. When times are difficult, true leaders rise to the occasion. And this year, she's been especially impactful, remarkable, and inspirational. On behalf of all of our boards, and especially the managing board, I'd like to please join me in thanking the Tammy and the staff at the Downtown Denver Partnership for a great year. You know, as I reflect on downtown Denver today, I'm reminded by a different time in the city's history. Believe it or not, there was another time when Denver was doubting its collective future, where we weren't quite sure where we were going. It was the 1980s, and the Broncos were rarely on Monday Night Football or national TV. And our job base was very dependent on the oil and gas industry, which, by the way, was in the tank. Vacancy rates were very high, interest rates were high, no capital was available for real estate in Denver. Our airport was undersized, and so was our convention center. Plus, we had no real local transit options. We didn't have a Major League Baseball team, and our hockey team had just moved out to New Jersey. Pretty bleak times for sure. Today, however, we have overcome virtually all of those obstacles or shortfalls, and we have a very diverse economy that's the envy of most of our competitors. And all of those major projects were accomplished. They were accomplished by so many, with leadership by so many people in this room today. But how did Denver turn things around at that time? When the city was looking, shall we say, a little unsettled. I'm reminded by a young candidate for mayor named Federico Pena, who challenged all of us to imagine a great city. At the time, no one was thinking about the potential negatives for growth, and nor should we have considered it. Why be concerned about big city problems like traffic or homelessness or affordability or drug use? We would figure those issues out in a unique Denver response when we needed to. Our community was in a survival mode for sure, but we all had confidence in how Denver solves problems together. Also at that time, the Downtown Denver Partnership did just what it does best, and just what it's doing today, in fact. It imagined not only a great city, but a better city. It convened visionaries and collaborated with a broad base of community leaders to collectively develop a community growth strategy to overcome obstacles and set the course for the future of our city. Obviously, Denver was not broken then, and in my opinion, Denver is not broken today. I firmly believe our collective pride, our collaboration around the best possible outcomes, and our long-term focus will continue to separate us from our competition, just like it always has. Sure, we can do better, but we always have become better together. Today, I absolutely believe we're going to do it again. However, there's one challenge that threatens our city, and we all know what it is. It's homelessness and the root causes that are behind it. As I encounter people living on our streets today, I believe we are certainly experiencing a mental health crisis, and most importantly, an addiction epidemic. Last year, fatal drug overdoses in Denver increased by a staggering 64%, more than double the increase experienced by the United States as a whole. This is not a statistic or a lifestyle we as a community can ignore anymore. We cannot continue to spend over $400 million a year on this issue and allow people to live on our streets where they're exposed to extreme weather conditions and where they cannot get the help that they need. If we want different results, it's time to think about this issue differently. We need to address the root causes of homelessness, including mental health and addiction, especially narcotic addiction, and get people out of tents. We also need to support our dedicated police officers and begin enforcing our laws again. The partnership has long been engaged in the challenge of homelessness, and today I call on you and the leaders across our city and our region to join in stepping up to a new approach, a real solution. This is something we all must face head on as an entire region together. Our work at the Downtown Denver Partnership reminds us that a healthy state and metro area demands a healthy downtown. If downtown's not healthy and economically growing, our entire region is going to be stagnant. We've seen that happen before. In the past, we've all supported downtown restaurants and businesses, as well as our police officers, and we all need to do it again. This is what happened when we needed to clean up downtown after the riots last summer. None of us should forget that over 5,000 concerned and proud citizens volunteered their time to clean up after that damage. A real testament to the pride that so many people feel in our downtown. A healthy community like Denver does not rely on someone else to do it. Each of us need to take personal responsibility. Downtown business owners, hotels, restaurants, and especially our police officers need your help and support now more than ever. Denver residents also need to engage in our future elections and policymaking in a much more active way. We must ensure we're not seeking to solve these short-term challenges at the expense of our long-term future. Let us all pull together and stand up for the future we want for our kids and grandchildren, just like we did when 82% of our citizens voted resoundingly that our public spaces belong to all of us. Camping on our streets is not acceptable. When faced with bad ideas, Denverites have always come together to build a better future, and we definitely need to do it again today. Lastly, I just have to say it's been an absolute privilege to represent the interests of downtown businesses, residents, and property owners as your chair. I'll never forget our members and their collective vision, their compassion for others, and their genuine pride in our downtown. It's been so wonderful to work with all of you and get to make so many new friends. Through it all, I'm more convinced than ever about the importance of the Downtown Denver Partnership. Our city needs the partnership. And our collective voices need to be heard over the noise of dissension and anarchy. That's the voice of the partnership. Together, let's keep DDP strong, and let's continue the proud tradition of keeping Denver, our city, the city, for the next generation of difference makers. Thank you very much. Pay attention to the script, Mike. Okay, if you turn the page. Okay, well now I'm proud to introduce a good friend and the managing partner of Hush Blackwell, Kevin Kelly. When we reflect on the meaningful engagement by the business community, Hush Blackwell represents deep commitment and partnership to downtown. Today, as our title sponsor, they're helping to bring world-class knowledge and expertise to Denver. To introduce our keynote speaker, it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to a great champion of downtown and a very good friend, Kevin Kelly.
So, I actually have to thank the mayor because he teed up what I was going to talk about by speaking about how difficult some of the decisions he had to make last summer. I think the theme here is choose your hard. And I thought about this because recently I was reading an article about FEMA that kind of shocked me. FEMA, as you know, provides funds for people to rebuild homes and businesses after they've been destroyed by tornadoes, floods, hurricanes. And to get FEMA aid, you got to prove ownership of the property you want to rebuild. And that makes sense, right? Show a deed, Makes perfect sense. Who doesn't have a deed to their property? Well, unfortunately, a lot of black people in the rural South don't. 140, 150 years ago, white farmers wanting to reclaim their land found it very difficult to force black farmers off the land if the black farmers had a deed. So they changed the rules. And they adopted a rule that denied black people the right to use the recording office. So for 140 years, lots of blacks in the South have been transferring property not through the usual chain of title, but just passing it off to one another. It's called heirs property. And FEMA's rule that you got to prove ownership, perfectly rational rule, right? But it perpetuates 150 years of social inequity. This is where we talk about choose your hard, right? It is hard to watch the wealth gap continue to grow between white and black when each are equally deserving of federal aid. But you know what's also hard? It's also hard to change the rules, to address the fact that our history sometimes puts people in a hole to start with. And when I read that article, I started thinking about Denver, and do our current rules reflect our current values and needs? And the first thing that came to mind was a victory. It's Larimer Square. Larimer Square is now a plaza. It is filled with restaurants and people. 2 years ago, it was filled with cars. The pandemic forced us to choose our hard. Watch our restaurants die or change the rules. We got to choose our hard. There's another story in Denver that's not quite as successful, and that is our streetscapes. The Downtown Denver Partnership also often points to European cities to say, look at the walkable, bikeable neighborhoods. Look at the narrow streets that create vitality. Maurice Dugan, in connection with developing the River Mile, wanted to create European-style narrow streets. And he went to the city, and the city said, that's a beautiful design, but no, our fire trucks don't fit. Copenhagen, Urban X 2019. If you were lucky enough to be on that trip, you'll remember that our last night, our last dinner, there was a kitchen fire. It forced all of us out of the restaurant. And I had to laugh because I saw Chris Shears and Reese Dugan running to this little fire truck that pulled up, taking photos, taking measurements. Very excited. And we get back to Denver, and Reese and Chris were doing exactly what we set out to do, right? We're going to go to Copenhagen, find new ideas, bring them home. He went to Denver and said, hey, remember the small streets? How about I buy you smaller fire trucks? And the city said no. A streetscape will define a neighborhood for 70, 80, 90 years. A fire truck lasts for 20 years. We got to choose the right hard, right? And there's lots of hard out there for us. We've got homelessness, as Mike said. We've got housing affordability. We've got traffic congestion. We've got pollution. We've got climate change. There are no easy answers to any of these problems. We've got to choose our hard. I'll give you one more story about that. And at the end of World War II, the USS Indianapolis was sunk by a Japanese sub, a torpedo from a Japanese sub. That boat sank in 12 minutes. And amazingly, 900 of the 1,200 sailors on board actually got out of the boat, okay? But after 3 days in the Philippine Sea without rescue, there are only 300 left. When the Navy found them, it sent out an amphibious plane to drop life rafts to them. The pilot of that plane was a guy named Captain Marks. Captain Marks did his job. He dropped the life rafts. But he disobeyed his orders. He decided to set his plane down in 12-foot ocean swells to save as many of the sailors as he could. He and his crew loaded as many nearly dead sailors into the bay of his plane as he could. But when a shark took one of the men as they were pulling him into the boat, he decided full was not full enough, and he instructed his crew to tie the least injured of the survivors to the wings of the plane with parachute cord. Disobeying orders, putting your crew at risk, risking getting court-martialed, that's hard. Obeying orders, knowing that the result will be the death of many more men, that's also hard. Fortunately, we do not have to make life and death decisions on the spur of the moment like Captain Marks. We've got time to get together and gather our best ideas, And there are people who have devoted their lives to helping cities make hard choices about how to develop great places and spaces. People like our keynote speaker, Vishaan Chakrabarti. Vishaan is the dean of Berkeley's College of Environmental Design. He was planning director in Manhattan after 9/11. He's currently involved with the Brooklyn redevelopment of the Domino Sugar Refinery, Philly's Schuylkill Yard, and Detroit's Michigan Central Station. Please join me in welcoming Vishaan Chakrabarti.
Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to see you all. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person. Kevin, that was such an amazing introduction. I don't think I've ever been introduced with quite that range of topics before, but I will really take it. That was extraordinary. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you, and I know you do incredible work. And so I'm going to try to give you some thoughts about cities coming out of this pandemic and what every city, including what Denver, could do to help with its own recovery and how to think about the future. First of all, just some data fresh off the charts from CB Richard Ellis about what actually happening, not all the anecdotal news stories, but what's actually happening in terms of city in-migrations and out-migrations. And it's really interesting. What's happening is, as you can see over on the right, a lot of our big expensive cities are losing population right now. But what's interesting is they're not just going off, people aren't just going off to mountaintops to work. They are moving to our smaller, less expensive cities. And so in that there is a story, and you'll notice Denver is right on the cusp of sort of not losing too much population, but not gaining that much either. A lot of this has to do with cost. Some of it has to do with quality of life issues like homelessness and so forth. But the question is, every city, and I talk to a lot of mayors about this, is in a constant struggle to attract human capital. That was true before the pandemic, and I think it's going to be even more true now as workers have new forms of mobility at their fingertips. And mayors used to have a mantra in terms of, urban policy, which was jobs, jobs, jobs. And I'd like to actually propose that maybe that mantra needs a little bit of adjustment to talk about jobs, justice, and joy. Because I think, as I talk to students, I have an architecture practice here in New York. I have a lot of young people around all the time, and sure, they want their job, but they also want a sense of racial and environmental justice in their world. They want to know that they live in a fair city and a city that's trying to address things like climate change. And they want a sense of joy. They want to know that their city is building experiences for its citizens that give them a quality of life that makes it a great place to be, which is why if jobs, justice, and joy are the kind of goals, then focusing on the 4 E's in the middle, economy, equity, ecology, and experience, which is kind of my bias as an architect to think about what is the human experience of a city, is I think the kind of policy measures, the things we can think about to create that larger circle that attracts human capital. So what does that mean coming out of the pandemic? This is data from April, and we've lost about almost 2.8 million souls from COVID around the world, which is a huge number and a tragic loss. We lose about 1.3 million people every year to automobile accidents and roadway injuries, more than almost any other major disease in the world. It's a staggering figure. And I'm going to beat up on cars a lot during this presentation, but I just also want you to know that I just drove this rig with my 19-year-old son 6,000 miles from Berkeley to New York. I love driving on the open road. This is in Kodachrome Basin in Utah. Sorry, it's not in Colorado. We did touch in Colorado. It's interesting driving two brown guys and an Airstream and a Cayenne hybrid across the country. Got some interesting looks. But I love driving on the open road. But that is very different from the issues that come with driving every day to go to work, to get your kids to school, to get a quart of milk. First of all, what this is showing you, that's the Bay Area on the left, Chicago on the right. We have all this data now about the fact that, when folks from the suburbs drive through inner city neighborhoods to get to the central business district, those inner city neighborhoods have very high rates of childhood asthma, They tend to be some of the poorest parts of our cities because the highways did terrible things to those neighborhoods in the 50s and the 60s, and as we kept expanding them and so forth. So there's huge public issues that come with that kind of suburban commutation. That includes all sorts of data we're getting about obesity and increased obesity in the suburbs and especially in the exurbs. We even have data that says that absence makes the heart break, that as commute times grow, family tension and stress and divorce rates increase. And then there's, of course, the existential issue of climate change. And what's really interesting is we talk a lot these days in our country about an urban-rural divide, but one of the things that our inner cities and our rural areas have in common is we have the lowest carbon footprint per person in those two areas. In cities, because people tend to use mass transit, live in apartments, and in rural areas because it's just a less carbon-intensive lifestyle. The culprit's in the middle, where we see, because of single-family homes, big cars, big trucks driving every day, that we're using a huge amount of carbon per person in those areas. And technology, I'm afraid, isn't going to just solve that problem by itself. Electric cars don't make this kind of development sustainable. Why? Electric cars, sure, it might feel good, but most of our energy grids aren't that clean. We're still using coal-fired emissions. There's a lot of embodied energy in car batteries. And so they're a step forward, but by itself, that's not the solution to the problem. Then there's all these other things like rideshare. In New York City, we had a huge increase in traffic, and it was supposed to go the other way with the introduction of Uber and Lyft into New York City, with a decrease in mass transit use. Then there's also just the embodied energy of all of those big wide roads that Kevin was talking about, a huge amount of energy that goes into the production of those roads, as opposed to half of that for mass transit use. And then the thing that I focus on mainly, and we'll talk about for a lot of the rest of this talk, which is the spatial implications. And Kevin was talking about those big wide fire trucks. So this is this really simple image. It shows 50 pedestrians, 50 bikes, 50 people on a bus, and 50 cars, and how much space each takes up. And that there's a huge spatial impact to private vehicle use in our cities. And we've seen this. Our cities across the United States were denser and more thriving at the end of the 1900s than they were at the end of the 2000s, because with the advent of the automobile, it's kind of this urban tooth decay that took place. This is Detroit, and you can see that loss of density and fabric. Also, just if you take away no other image from this talk, this one always just is staggering to me. These two images are the same scale. So at the right, you see the historic district of Florence, and on the left, you see a highway interchange in Los Angeles. Because of the way in which, when we invented the automobile, we just then thought, well, cars should have to go fast, and they shouldn't have to stop for people, so they should be able to travel quickly at big speeds over long distances for those suburban commuters to get home, which means that we should eat up more and more local urban fabric in order to do that. And that, of course, all came with the passage of the largest infrastructure bill this country ever passed under Republican Dwight Eisenhower, both in response to the nuclear threat of the Soviet Union to defuse the population, but also, frankly, the racial threat that people felt in our inner cities, and the fact that this National Highway Act would trigger white flight from our inner cities, a de-densification of our inner cities, kind of carving out of our school systems in our inner cities, to the sort of privilege and benefit of our suburbs. And it's been that way ever since. If you look at the federal budget, much more money goes into highways than any other form of transit. Much more money goes towards fossil fuels, towards any other form of energy. And we've now reached the planet's kind of precipice, where we may go over 2 degrees Celsius in terms of global warming if we use much more of the fossil fuel that's available to us under the Earth's surface. So what do? At Berkeley, actually, a colleague of mine did some extraordinary research around the fact that in advising California cities, that urban infill densifying our cities was actually a more impactful public policy tool than almost any of the other kind of technological ideas we think about, or even the focus on, not eating meat or water and waste, all these other things. That densification, because of that lower energy use per person, is a massive step forward that every city can take. And the thing that it's interesting to me about that is that's not just an eat your spinach kind of, climate change is upon us, we all have to live with less, but that we could live with more, in fact, live with more time especially. And I think a lot of young people are gravitating towards a world where they can use mass transit, not have to worry about drinking and driving, or drinking and or texting and while driving, or road rage, or all of those things that happen in our highways today outside of our major cities. And then that gets us to not just talking about cities, but this is a rural village in Japan, very similar to actually the village my father grew up in India. You'll notice here that unlike our model, the farmers live together, and then they go out in the farm, they farm the fields, and they're all brought together by a backbone of both physical infrastructure and social infrastructure as a community that keeps some of the social problems that we see in a lot of our communities happening today. And Asia just generally has thought about urban development in a very different way. I went to China in 1993. My friend took this picture, and he then took the same picture in 2016. I'm sure you know what's happened in cities all around the world, and particularly in East Asia, where they've tended to grow much more much more vertically than horizontally. We've adopted the opposite policy in California. In the West, we've seen these huge fires, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that we've built about 32 million homes since the 90s in the urban wildland interface, and just created all sorts of tough conditions for our firefighters, for our communities, and that we have to rethink this way of building. And so when I think about, well, if we're going to rethink how we build, we have 7 billion people on the planet today, we're projecting 11 billion by 2100. How can we rethink how we build in a way that, again, is about human quality of life, right? Is about great experiences? Well, how about looking at the places that people naturally gravitate towards? Where do they go on vacation? They go to places like the Spanish Steps in Rome, or the tight-knit streets of Shanghai or Tokyo, in Fez in Northern Africa, in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro. Some of these places are wealthy, some of these places are not. But what they all have in common is they were designed before the automobile, and they were designed around human scale and human purpose and human joy. And so why did we change? What happened? Well, at the end of the 1800s, with the Industrial Revolution, came 3 big inventions that changed the way we built the world: the elevator, structural steel, and the internal combustion engine. And our imaginations went immediately towards this notion of the car and the freedom the car brings. And like I said, I just drove cross country. I love that freedom, just not for everyday life in the city. Because what it's doing, as 2 billion people have entered the middle class around the world since the 1990s, is this is 6 subdivisions across 6 continents, as more people use a certain version of the American dream, version that's not about opportunity for all, which I think is the true American dream, but this notion that everyone needs a house and a lawn and big cars, that is metastasizing across the planet in a way that is extraordinarily dangerous given the resource constraints that the planet has. But another form of problem is the urban kind of version of that, which is this is 6 downtowns from 6 continents across the country. And now when I talk about density, a lot of the pushback that I get, maybe the pushback that some of you get as you talk about density in your city, is, well, yeah, we get transit-oriented density, we get walkable neighborhoods, but why does everything have to look the same? Why is it the same Starbucks and the same kind of building built over and over again? Well, a lot of that has to do with the way we build today. We don't think about the local that much. We tend to think about global production change in how we build things. And so we build kind of process cities. And so, it's interesting to me, we focus so much now on healthy food, and like most of us have stopped eating a lot of processed food. So if we don't want processed food, why should we live in process cities? So I think we need to start again with a different model for how we build our cities. And density is a big part of it. And we know that people who even live at townhouse density, much less sort of higher rise densities, have much lower carbon footprints per person. That's an important place to start. We know that the nature of work, especially coming out of the pandemic, is changing. I will bet you that none of your sons and daughters want to want to work in an office park. That is a dying idea, and it is steadily being replaced all over the world by mixed uses. In Barcelona, they've used to a new height. They've coined this term that I love, human speed, which is this notion that, about 30% of Barcelona walks to work. They are trying to make it so it is more mixed use, so 50% of Barcelona walks to work. Not just because it's better for the planet, not just because it's better for people's actual wellness, but they believe that when people walk, it creates innovation and ideas that spurs their economy. This is not a new idea. It's actually the kind of foundation of what urbanity really is. Urbanity isn't about big cities or small cities. It's about this notion that people of difference, not just racial difference or economic difference, but the difference of mindset. The notion that as people move into denser circumstances, they find other people who think differently, and then they start talking and they start changing the world. This diagram over on the right could be the Arab Spring. It's the way cities form a platform for change and innovation. And we now have data around this. This isn't just architects and urbanists waxing rhapsodic. We know that people in denser circumstances create more patents. There's more patent filing in more dense areas. We know that there is more innovation associated with it. Part of that is also, how do you then design places to really, really embrace difference? Not just inclusivity because it's a good thing to do, but inclusivity because it actually creates more kind of social capital and more social wealth. And so where would I start? I would start in any major city with the streets. Now, Kevin talked about buying smaller fire trucks, and I could go on about fire trucks for a long time. Very hard to do. But that doesn't mean we can't make changes with the fabric we've got. This is a typical midtown street in New York City. And we did this little modeling exercise with the New York Times where we said, well, what if we banned private cars from central Manhattan? Not all of New York, but from the most congested part of our city. There would still be buses, there'd still be Amazon deliveries, there'd still be Access-a-Ride for people who needed it in wheelchairs and so forth. But that we could reclaim most cities are about 30% roadway. That we could reclaim those streets for bikes, for seniors, for children, for better waste management, and actually increase mobility, lower commute times for the entire region, because buses would move so much more quickly and so forth. This is up in Harlem, where I heard some of the comments about homelessness and so forth. The fact that you could create more public space, work with communities, provide more homeless services, and in some cases even provide more land for things like shelters and so forth. But the idea that you could work with a community and really think about how we use these streets to their betterment. So a lot of the research I do in our office is around, well, if we designed streets a certain way and a lot of that went to cars, if you did have the advent of autonomous vehicles, of different kinds of vehicles, could you rethink our city grids to kind of in a back to the future moment where, again, cities were built for people and not for cars, where you could think about public space, where you have shared vehicles, where it's a lot more pedestrian. You could build a middle scale using timber construction and other things that are more sustainable and create more walkable and bikeable neighborhoods. So that's one piece of the research. At the same time, we know we've got a massive housing crisis in this country. And we have data that says that our more walkable and more walkable, bikeable neighborhoods are becoming unaffordable because they are more attractive. That's where people want to live. So those are the places where we need to build much more affordable housing. We've had a huge drop in affordable housing around the country since World War II. And this is where I'm encouraged to see a White House that's talking about infrastructure defined broadly, not just traditional infrastructure, which of course is critical, but an infrastructure of opportunity, the things that create social mobility in our society, social housing, culture, open space, healthcare, and so forth. And I think in the post-pandemic circumstance, this is becoming even more important as we're losing a sense of just one central business district and people are working in the broader geography of our cities into what I think is that sort of lattice city model on the right. You know, one of my heroines, Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, she talks about the 15-minute city. I like the 20-minute city because we have a bigger landmass in the United States. But the notion that in 20 minutes you could reach 80% of your daily needs by walking. And people might be shy about density, but when you say, would you like to live in a circumstance where you could walk to most of your daily needs? Most people I talk to say, yeah, they'd like that. And then you can say, well, to do that, you need mixed use and density and transit and all of these other things. I happen to think that architecture plays a key role in that, how buildings open up to the networks around them, especially the ground floor of buildings, to make them more porous, to make them more programmatically vibrant. And I just wanted to close by giving you a couple of examples. This is work we're doing for Ford Motor Company in Detroit. Bill Ford bought the abandoned train station in the heart of Detroit. It's an extraordinary landmark, but has seen better days. And we've done a whole master plan for them about the streets around this thing and how development can happen around it, including, you know, new office spaces for innovation, new housing, as well as a network of public space. And it's always about the public space that's the glue that makes development valuable and makes development connected. And so a network of open space, no back door, you know, and so these are just before and afters of what's under construction right now. The old train platforms being repurposed as public space. I was very involved with the High Line here in New York, similar kind of story. Places that, you know, feel like they are a kind of great place for the homeless to hang out and no one else, and how do you turn that into something that is really for everybody? Kevin mentioned my work at Domino. This is one of my pride and joy projects. This park is a 6-acre park, open, built by a developer. We're now working with that same developer to take that historic sugar refinery and turn it into a new kind of creative class office building. This all sits at this development that's surrounded by communities, rich and poor, of all different types. Things that I learned from other parts of the world. This is Mongolia, the coldest capital in the world. And I know you've got some winter time, but try Mongolia sometime. This is Ulaanbaatar, where we're building a new village in the heart of the capital for people to hang out and walk. You know, that just doesn't exist anywhere in the city today. Low scale, local construction, nothing. The colors are very much akin to the way local construction happens. And then we were actually able to use that same kind of 3-story module. And this is important for those of you who care about affordable housing, particularly in suburban infill locations. This is the same module we used in Mongolia using the International Building Code, but in Bentonville, Arkansas, where this is all wood construction. International Code says that you don't need to have an elevator if wheelchair users can access units at the ground floor in the 3-story building. So you can get about 48 units an acre in this model, with one staircase and no elevator, very little concrete, a sort of cheaper way to build affordable housing. That also has a scale that I think is a good transitional scale from single-family homes. This is an all affordable housing project in East New York in one of the poorest parts of Brooklyn that we're doing for a pastor, great man. And it was this drawing that sold him. He had read his Jane Jacobs, and it was all about building streets and community, building a lot of townhouses for eyes on the street, building curbless streets. So again, a lot of those ideas that you saw in Copenhagen, for those of you who went, but for some of our poorer communities, not something that's just something that's sort of twee and something that's talked about in urbanist magazines. And then the last couple of projects, culture. We were proud to win the competition for Rock and Roll's new expansion of their Hall of Fame in Cleveland, the IMP building. We're working on that. Fascinating history, fascinating racial history, fascinating urban history, about, again, building place, building a magnet, building a place for the community to really celebrate itself. And I love working in cities that have had this kind of post-industrial history, but are now on the way back. Philadelphia, new life science building next to the train station. So these are just all examples. Again, the ground floor, how does it meet the street? How does it meet the train station next door? How does it feel public and open, not just for the users, but for everyone in the city? Even in down and out places, this is a master plan for downtown Niagara Falls, where we're building a heritage trail to get people off the tourist beat from the falls and into the heart of the city. Amazing history about electricity and the Underground Railroad and all sorts of other things, new observation decks and so forth. And then just lastly, our big brownfield sites. This is a 180-acre piece of land owned in New York City that we work with the mayor to propose 100% affordable housing and net zero. And so these things can happen. I do think that all of your work is really critical in terms of your focus on downtown. So I really thank you for inviting me today. I do believe that as we move into the post-pandemic future, that we need to think about more rail-based habitation, not just trying to do a 20th century redo of the suburbs, something that is much more about the idea that if you really love nature, and you have some of the most beautiful nature in the world state, that you shouldn't try to live in it. And that the city is actually the last best hope for all of the challenges we face in terms of our racial reckoning, in terms of climate change, in terms of creating a better life for our. So thank you. I wish I could be there with you and take some questions, but I think I'm going to sign off now. I hope you have a great day. Okay, take care.
Thank you, Vishaan. I think a couple things that really stood out to me is making sure that we're building our cities at human scale, and that also we are not making decisions in the near term that have long-term impacts that we actually don't believe are the best for our city. So really grateful to have this incredible speaker with us today. So at the partnership, we say over and over again, great cities do not happen by accident. They are built with intentionality, and at the very core, they are built to be resilient. Resilient cities will always be the most successful cities, but how do we achieve it? We achieve it through effective public policy that allows for business growth. We achieve it through creating an equitable and diverse city, investing in our infrastructure, and ensuring a safe, welcoming, and inclusive place for all. But most importantly, resiliency is achieved through strong leadership. Leadership that comes from all areas of our community. And the power of that individual leadership is catalyzed in the quality, the passion, and the commitment of those that are building our city. It also comes in a way in which we are all interconnected as leaders. It's just that leadership and that resiliency that helped us all navigate this past year. That is where the partnership comes in. In 2007, we laid out a strong long-term plan for our center city, the downtown area plan. We have since been working that plan strategically and methodically. We are city builders and we are building for our future. So let's take a moment and talk about a really powerful year of city building that we've had. The 16th Street Mall. Yes, it is really happening. After a decade of advocacy and planning, pre-construction work is actually underway. This project will yield 1,800 jobs and a $4 billion economic impact. This year, we're going to work with the city to ensure that businesses receive grants, resources, and marketing to help them thrive during the redevelopment of the mall. But the big win will come at the conclusion when this mall transforms our center city. With the mall underway, we turn our attention to another transformative project, the 5280 Trail. This 5-mile park and urban trail will connect our center city neighborhoods. This year, we advanced the plan with the city for 21st Street, and we're now planning to mark the trail with signage, implement new art installations along the trail, and begin driving forward to get 12 blocks built out on 21st Street as the first project out of the gate. So we've got some work to do on that. The vision, led by the partnership in the city for Skyline Park, has been moving throughout this past year. We've engaged thousands of people in this design process, and we will collectively reveal these plans to the community in the fall and then begin to work to bring that plan to light. Just as we work to create vibrant public spaces, we are committed to building a mosaic of vibrant neighborhoods. Last year, we launched the Upper Downtown Plan, and this year, we implemented the branding, we installed new art, we implemented live music, and thanks to the Makovsky family, we're able to actually introduce a new pop-up park on the 16th Street Mall. So in the year ahead, we will be focusing on retail, retail, retail. We will really be bringing out a strong vision and plan in partnership with the city to drive ground floor activation. We all know Upper Downtown is a premier economic hub for our city, and we're deeply committed to it. As we look at all of this, though, we know that people bring a city to life. So we remain steadfast in our commitment to build places that people want to be. The partnership was first in the entire state to bring forth the concept to activate our streets to support restaurants and ground floor places. We will continue to advocate in terms of bringing more of these streets online for the long term. We are very focused on Glenarm and Larimer. These are two great examples of what can happen when we think differently about our public streets. We re-envision the Parade of Lights, placing floats throughout the center city, expanding the duration of our holiday experience, and that is coming back this year as well. Many of you have seen our beautiful art installation, digital light installation on the DNF Tower that we have done in partnership with the Theater District. I'm excited to share with you all that we're bringing another such project forward, and we're going to be installing the same type of project on the Sheridan Building in Upper Downtown. This is all about advancing our vision to create a city of light. Over the summer, we brought Meet in the Street back. It's still going on as we bring tens of thousands of people downtown who will have the opportunity to remember how much they love this city. So as we continue to inspire our public realm and create diverse spaces that create an equitable environment for all to enjoy our city, we have to take a moment to think about how important it is that we maintain these spaces, beautify them, and keep them safe. And that is where the bid comes in. The Downtown Denver Business Improvement District has been around for 30 years, caring for our downtown. This year, the partnership successfully led a bid renewal process as the bid sunsets this year. So I'm excited to announce that for 10 more years, we will have the bid. And I do want to, at this moment, thank the bid property owners in our center city. Each year, going forward, they will contribute nearly $7 million to care for our downtown. So I think all of us in this room and all of us in our city owe the bid property owners a huge thank you for their contribution above and beyond to take care of downtown. Thank you to our bid property owners. Urban centers across the country are facing increases in crime, and Denver is no exception. We are deeply committed to addressing this issue, and we have a number of key actions in place. We are increasing our bid security by 30%. We're working with the district attorney to ensure that crimes are actually being prosecuted, and we are advocating for increased public safety resources, including additional resources for our police department, as well as alternative and innovative approaches to addressing safety in our community. As we go forward, you all know that we are deeply committed to building public spaces, but we're also deeply committed to building public policy that will help our city grow, be resilient, and really have more opportunities for all in the future. In times like these, it's very easy to be reactive with public policy. We risk solving a short-term problem and then having long-term peril because of decisions that we're making. We need balance. We have always had a strong voice in public policy, and in the coming year, you are going to see this increase exponentially. We are going to expand our education and engagement efforts with residents and businesses. We are launching a 501c4 to support fundraising and investment efforts around public policy efforts. Our ability to continue to build a thriving city is dependent upon the policy infrastructure that we create and in which we operate, whether that addresses equity, housing, or business. We will be calling upon all of you to invest your time and resources to ensure that we have a vibrant city in the years ahead. Last year, we continued our efforts around innovation and entrepreneurship. We know that business grows cities. Through a virtual format, we engaged 20,000 individuals from around the world, showcasing our entrepreneurial environment and the talent here in Denver. We also continued to support entrepreneurs and startups through the Commons on Champa, and we're excited to say that we've now celebrated our 6th anniversary of the Commons on Champa. To date, we have serviced over 17,000 entrepreneurs and over 2,000 businesses in this space, helping them to grow. We will continue to find ways to strengthen our business environment, help companies start here, stay here, grow here. We knew that bringing people back to our center city would bring it back to life. In partnership with Gary Community Investments, we launched Denver's Ready. And through this program, which by the way, was the first of its kind in the entire country, focused on bringing employees back to an urban environment, we helped 200 companies bring their employees back in a safe, welcoming manner and got them back to work. It was a great opportunity to bring them back and as well help them celebrate and remember why they like and love working in an urban environment. And so we are building for the future, but this is going to require all of your insight, your leadership, and your support. It will also require resources, and we at the partnership are prepared to invest. This year, we will launch an Urban Impact Fund, and this fund, which will be seeded by the partnership and advanced by our nonprofit and private sector partners, will continue to work to identify and advance large-scale transformative projects in our center city. We have accomplished so much in this past year. In the midst of the pandemic, we continued to focus on and build for the future. Through it all, we stood together and we stood tall in the face of incredible loss, whether it be business or personal loss in our community. But that is what leadership is all about. We're so proud of what we've done and so grateful to our members, all of you who stayed in the game, both to address current problems, but to solve challenges we face in the future and to build our city for the future. Again, we are grateful and we thank you. Now, though, it's time to set the stage for the coming year. And if there's one thing I can call upon all of you to do, is you've worked so hard to address the challenges and issues that we have faced as a city in the near term in this past year. I call upon you to all work just as hard on every aspect of how we build our city for the future. I want to take a moment to thank our Downtown Denver Partnership team, who are a big part of building for the future, reiterate my gratitude to our members, and also set the stage by introducing our new chairs who will lead the organization going forward. Sarah Rockwell will chair the Downtown Denver Management Group Board of Directors, Maya Rosenquist, Downtown Denver Inc., Raju Patel, Denver Civic Ventures, and Sandrina Robinson, the Downtown Denver Business Improvement District. We have a lot of great work ahead of us, exciting opportunities, and our new board chair, Sarah Rockwell, is helping to take us there. Please welcome Sarah as she kicks off her new role in this new year as chair of the Downtown Denver Partnership. Sarah, welcome.
Okay, I know it's late and you guys are all wanting to get back to work and doing whatever else you're doing this afternoon, so I'll be brief. First of all, thank you, Tammy. What an incredible year we've had, and the DDP team and staff have just been remarkable. I am honored to be here today as the new chair of the Downtown Denver Partnership, and I also want to acknowledge Mike Zollner for all he has done for the organization. Mike navigated one of the hardest times in our city's history, and he did it with strength and grace. Mike, I can't see you because the lights are so bright, but thank you. So throughout today's program, we've reflected on a year like no other. And though we're an organization that spends each day taking actions that make way for a brighter future, I want to take a look back at our roots, even before Mike talked about 1980. The Downtown Denver Partnership was founded on November 28, 1955, nearly 66 years ago. During this time, downtown leaders, and I actually knew one of them, worried about safety, cleanliness, and vibrancy in downtown, particularly as businesses and Denver residents were moving to the suburbs. The founders of the partnership knew that for Denver to move forward as a city, they needed to ensure that downtown Denver was a place where people and business wanted to be. And so a group of business leaders came together during this vulnerable time to secure a brighter future for the Center City, not unlike all of us gathered here today. Those leaders recognized downtown Denver's potential. Listen to some of their statements. An exciting and rapidly changing city poised on the edge of greatness. The recognized center of commerce, the economic, political, cultural, and social heart of the New West. A city whose leaders are committed to shaping its future creatively and responsibly with the goal of building and sustaining a vibrant 24-hour environment. And in talking specifically about the Downtown Denver Partnership's purpose, they said, the framework for this ambitious venture, the model which draws its great strength from the active participation of the Denver private sector, who are working in close cooperation with their counterparts in government. How amazing. Those quotes, they could have been written today or they could have been written 66 years ago. So more than six decades later, those words still ring true. Downtown has evolved in many ways since 1955, but the partnership has evolved with it. And today, our Center City thrives as the economic hub of the Rocky Mountain West, the envy of cities nationwide and the heartbeat of Denver. And we at the partnership are still deeply committed to shaping a vibrant and inclusive city, and to drawing great strength from our ability to convene partners across sectors for the benefit of all. These quotes from 1955 remind us of the foundation our predecessors laid for us, a foundation that has fortified us through tough times, helped us navigate an ever-changing environment, and ultimately to soar as a city. These quotes also remind us of the responsibility we have as today's leaders to lay a strong foundation for those who come after us. I look forward to leading the partnership over the next year as we continue to deliver on that responsibility and build this city together for today and for the future. Thank you. And finally, as we close, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the businesses that help sustain our organization year-round through sponsorship, starting with the partnership's platinum sponsors, Hush Blackwell, who is also today's title sponsor, Citywide Banks, J.E. Dunn Construction, Davita, and Ping Identity. Thank you very much, all of you. And you will also see our gold and silver sponsors on the slide in front of you. Thanks to everyone for joining us for this first ever hybrid event. Let's hope maybe it's our last ever hybrid event. And have a great afternoon. Don't forget to take some time to explore the Downtown Denver Partnership's annual report at downtowndenver.com/annual, or by the QR code at the center of your table, which we've all learned to use this past year. There are more opportunities to get back together for continued city building work, including the Taste of Colorado, happening on the 16th Street Mall on Labor Day weekend, Denver Startup Week, Bike to Work Day, and the Downtown Denver Awards this fall. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.